Okay, so we were studying, chapter 3 and the concept of role models, right, last time. And so, in the concept of role models, what we saw was the duty was not just to perform one's actions. There is a twin duty of, hey, you are doing your job and also setting an example, right? So it's two of them. Because in Arjuna's case, there might be an issue because the yajna aspect of it is to transform any action to transform it to such a thing that it transcends self, right? You can Kurukshetra war, you can fight the war because you want to kill people. That's a tamasic way of doing things, right? That's sadistic pleasure. You can fight the war because you want power, right? And you want power and prestige. That's more Rajasic way of doing things. Or you can fight the war because you want to protect the evil and you want to protect the society from evil and stop evil in its tracks. And you have all these different levels of doing it. Arjuna was stuck at the level of, hey, why are we fighting this war? Just because we want to get power and prestige and get land and kingdom. That's not the right reason. Krishna, what he was doing is to transform that activity into a sattvic activity. You need to transcend self and look at it as a way of stopping evil rather than gaining wealth. And not every war is like this. The Kurukshetra war was like that. Not every war can be transformed into a righteous war. If it is a righteous war, you can transform it into sattva, rajas, or tamas, right? You can, way of looking at it. But my question is, what if you lose the war? What kind of yajna did you do? Your intention was to stop evil in its tracks, but evil is more powerful than good, and the good is defeated. What yajna is that when good is defeated?
But the intention is still good to stop evil. So
yeah.
You still did your part. Doesn't matter what the outcome is.
Right. Correct. So the thing is, even though you are not successful, you have succeeded in yajna because you have done it, but you also succeeded in another portion of it. That is by setting up an example of what should be done. Whether you win or lose, what is the right thing to do is fight for this cause, right? For values and all of those things. You have set right example. So these two things are there. And now in the role model, what are you intending to do? You're intending to transform people, right? Change people. Now Krishna talks about the importance of role model, and now after that he moves on to talk about how change happens, how people change. Now that's the topic of this class. How change happens. Here in I think we were in verse 25. He says, "Saktaha karmani avidvamsaha yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvamsaha tatha asaktaha chikirshuhu lokasangraham." Now, who do you want to see as your role model? Who would inspire change in you?
General or?
You. I'm talking about you, not general, particular. Let's say, who would inspire change in you? So let's look at change, right? That the whole thing is about change. The whole thing is about change. And what is the requirements for those change? Who would inspire change in us? Or in you? Let's take your case. Any one of your case. Your case.
They walk the talk, basically, and also they're doing things that will help the society.
Okay. But again, there is, we have to go for specific examples. Let's say, does Vasishtha Rishi inspire change in you?
It's just politicians, technically.
Okay, inspire change.
In general.
No, I'm saying real, good change.
Good change, it could be, Swami Vivekananda. Everyone.
But what aspect of it? I mean, why is it that Swami Vivekananda can inspire change and not Vasishtha Rishi?
We don't know much about him. That's about it.
Okay, let's see who we know a lot about, but still is not able to inspire change.
Ramakrishna Paramahamsa.
Okay, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, does he inspire change in us?
No.
Why is it that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa does not inspire change, but Vivekananda does?
The way he communicated and the way he,
You know the person. You know some people well and other people.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And
Even the people we know, let's say very well, there are only certain people who can inspire change. Because of certain aspect, which is what?
charismatic and
You identify with some people. That's the thing.
Exactly, right? Relatability. You have to be, has to be relatable. So it has to be relatable, right? For me, somebody, who is way above cannot inspire change, because what do you need in change? It needs to be humanized, right? Somebody who is always perfect.
Humanized, practical, same level.
Also, exactly, right? Who faces the same problems like we did, who does things like we do, who is in situations in which we are. That relatability is necessary for change, right? A role model who is way above, who is way perfect, cannot inspire change. You need to have relatability. Okay? That is one aspect, yeah.
So I have a question. Then what about Ramachandra? He was perfect.
Yeah. Does he inspire change in you?
Well, wasn't that the whole purpose of the avatar, was to teach us how to live by his example?
Yeah, his example, but he's not the only example. What I'm saying is, he may be examples to people who are at a very high level, but is he an example to you? Because what I'm saying is, an example should be relatable, because such an example should be in the same conditions, in the same environment, and face the same challenges like we did. Otherwise, it is not relatable. And if it's not relatable, it will not inspire change. Even though, Rama is the ideal, but he's not the ideal role model for us at this point of time. Right? Maybe a role model for even, more advanced sadhakas, but not for us. Right?
Pick up a few things. You don't have to get the role model aspect, all aspects, but
there are aspects.
How he was able to tackle all the situations in a very cool way, those
right. There are aspects of Rama where it was very humanized, right? How he lost his wife and all of those things are there. Where it is very humanizing, there, yes, it is relatable. Where it is very perfect, it is not relatable. And so it does not inspire change, right? So, one of the main aspects of change, inspiring change, is relatability, right? And so Krishna takes up that relatability. He says, what he says here is, Saktaha karmani avidvamsaha yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvamsaha tatha lokasangraham chikirshu lokasangraham. That means, if the actor, like there are two enlightened, there is an enlightened actor, a person who is doing things, but who is doing things in an enlightened way, and there is a person who is doing things because he is in pursuit of power and all of those things, right? And they are both doing, let's say, power is a very great motivator, so it can also make people do a lot of great things, but that is not worthy of emulating. But we also want something that is relatable to emulate. So how should a jnani act is the question, right? So Krishna is saying a jnani who wants to set an example in society should be relatable first of all. If he wants to, chikirshuhu lokasangraham, that means if he wants to inspire society for the welfare of society. Lokasangraha means to do good to the society, welfare of the society. If you want to do that, then kuryat, what should a vidwan should do? Just like an unenlightened person acts, the enlightened person should also act the same way, he says. What does it mean?
He should.
See, yatha avidwan kuryat, karoti, the vidwan should also tatha kuryat, vidvamsaha.
Should do all the same duties that a normal person doing, and not showing that he is done that and staying away from society.
That is the exact thing, right? So, if you want to set an example, be a part of society and be relatable. Do things that everyday normal people do, but what is the difference here? The difference is not in actions. He said actions are the same. Yatha, how the unenlightened do, the enlightened should also do the same thing. Only in the doing part. Right? But in the motivation part, one is a sakta, attached, the other one is asakta, detached attachment. So the change is in the attitude inside, not in the behavior outside. Because if it is in the behavior outside and you are way overboard, you can never inspire society.
Intention?
Intention. Yeah, the intention, not just the intention, but the actions. What differentiates the unenlightened and the enlightened actor is the intentions, is the way they look at things, right? Their attitudes and intentions. But in terms of behaviors and not activities that they do in society, they are virtually identical. They are completely different in attitudes, but identical in their actions. So that way, what are you bringing? You are bringing relatability, right? For a change to happen, relatability is a paramount of paramount importance. If without relatability, there is no change. Right? Is that understood? Okay. Now, what is the second aspect of change? Okay, we will go through this, right? What Krishna says in 26 is, Na buddhi bedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yuktah samacharan. Okay, the second way that Krishna is saying change should happen, right? Change, it's not just change happens, but change should happen. One is relatability. Actions should be identical, not intentions. So I should have I can look at somebody and say, yes, I want to do like that, and I will be able to do like that, but see, this guy is doing it in this way, so that means even I should be able. If he can do it, I can do it. That is relatability, right? And the second aspect is what? Force, right? Coercion, force. Does change happen with force or without force? You said with. You're saying without.
It depends.
Okay.
When things are not happening, you can force it. And if things are happening automatically.
Krishna says it's without force. You cannot do. Change should happen without force. Right? No forced conversion. So, this is very fantastic, very deep verse this is. He says, Na buddhi vedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam. There is a karma sangi. That means one whose motivations are very low motivations. He's doing things for very low motivations, for power or for all the wrong reasons. He's a karma sangi. He's completely attached to it. he's ajnani, right? He's ignorant. Then Krishna says, na buddhi vedam janayet. Do not confuse him. Do not go tell people that's not the wrong way. That's not the right way to do. This is the right way to do. What you are doing is wrong. Do it my way. Krishna says, na janayet. Do not do that. Do not create change by confusing or forcing other people to leave their path and follow your path. I see question marks everywhere. Why? What is it? Why do you look confused? Or you have? It makes sense? Okay. It makes sense or no? No, you said forced. Why?
Well, I'm just saying the change sometimes if it's not happening, that needs the nudge, That's what.
No, nudge is a different thing, right? When you force means, it's like, you can take a horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink, right? So change should come from within. And to make change happen from within, without, yes, you can do, externally you can force change. But internally, force will never, bring about transformation. Force will bring about superficial change, right? But Krishna is talking about how to bring about societal transformation. One is relatability. The other one is what? Not having force. Even though I write force here, no force. Right? He says, na buddhi vedam janayat ajnanam karma sanginam. Do not force or do not confuse. Buddhi veda means confuse. The ajnan is the ignorance who are doing things their own way. Do not confuse them and bring them to your path. Right? Then what's the right way to do? Joshayet. Right? He says, Joshayet sarva karmani vidwan yukta samacharan. He says, Joshayet. What is Josh? Inspire. Right? Inspire the works. Inspire their actions by what? Vidwan yukta samacharan. Karma yoga yukta samacharan. By doing things the right way, all he needs to do is set the example so that others can get inspired and transform themselves. That is how you change. You cannot force change. Change should not be forced. Change should be, or transformation should be inspired, not forced. And it has to come from within, not from external sources.
I don't know if this is relatable to this discussion here, but with my son, it's how we're constantly struggling with trying to improve his grades, and I keep telling him that it's no use just putting in hours. Don't work like a dog. Studying, reading. The key, you're not going to be able to force a change in your grades just by putting in untold hours. Okay? What you need to do is be inspired by the subject, understand the subject, and then your grades will improve. More than just putting in 15-20 hours a week. Understand what the teacher is teaching you, be inspired by it, understand it, and your grades will automatically improve.
Okay.
I don't know if it's related
Yeah, but
here, but
Yeah.
Here's another example, like if you go to a temple and you bow down, right? You see your kids, bow down.
Kid is there.
And,
Pavitra is here.
but if you bow down yourself,
Yeah.
the child is automatically.
Exactly, right? Walk the talk. See, the talk is not important. And we saw the example, right? Role model is what? Role model is not saying, hey, you change. He's not saying. Role model is setting an example, not even talking. Because that the things that we doing is much more, speaks louder than words. Deeds speaks much louder than words, right? So those deeds speak much louder than words, and that's the one that changes. And exactly what Krishna is saying is, hey, if you really want to bring about change, if you really want to bring about a transformation in somebody, it needs to happen from within. And how does any change from within happen? Not by force, not by telling them, not by confusing them, not by, teaching them. All of these things are, because when you say you are wrong, the natural tendency is to defend your position, right? You cannot tell them, That's what Krishna is saying, because everybody loves their own ideas, right? We all love all our own ideas, our own thinking about the world. We love that. If somebody says you are wrong, our first reaction is to put a fence around us and protect us, because there are a lot of things that define us, because if that goes away, then the whole idea of what we are goes away. So we defend ourselves on all these ideas, thinking that, hey, I do this because somebody else does it, or some guru does it. Some guru told me he cannot be wrong. This guy told me he cannot be wrong. So we come up with all these reasons just to defend some idea, because you don't want to think about it, right? So for the transformation to happen, you need to actually understand and identify that this problem is there, that everybody loves what they know, and they think that what they know is the correct knowledge, right? And therefore, by telling them or trying to tell them, well, what you know is wrong, this is the right way to do, you're making them put up those barriers where change becomes not even possible, right? So to bring about internal change, Krishna says the opposite works. Don't even tell them anything, but you do the things the right way, and that will inspire. Because first time they might not ignore it, second time they ignore it, third time they'll make notice. They'll take notice of what this guy is doing. There may be something. And then slowly they get inspired by it, and then they start changing themselves. That is how change happens. This is change as in the real change. You can bring about force, create laws, all of those things are there. These are all external mechanisms. But the real change is no force, but by setting examples. And then relatability, right? Change happens when there is no force, but there is an inspiration, and then there is a relatability to the object that inspires. When those two things are there, yes.
What about other religions? They come in force and they convert people and whatever. How can you stop that then?
Well, that's a very important.
I understand what you're saying. I totally agree. We should not force anybody.
What do they induce? Forcing them to induce the money or...
Yeah, whatever it is, maybe they're trying to do the same thing using money, or they're converting people by showing them whatever.
See, but that conversion is not transformation, right? That's conversion of faith. But and all of that is a surface conversion. Superficial. See, you cannot convert somebody by inducements. You cannot. That's why even though let's say in Pakistan or Bangladesh, people are following different religions, but culturally, it's the same thing that's going on, right? Whatever was there before culturally is sub-intentional. That means nobody taught them. Therefore, nobody can change it. And therefore, all those practices and all of those things are very identical to what people in the neighboring Indian state would have done, right? It's all, at that level, it's the same. It's not a transformation in that sense. But in external sense, yeah. But their kids and their kids and their kids who have not seen anything else, yes, they would be hooked onto that faith. And that's where defending it becomes very important, right? Krishna is saying two things here. Setting the right example and also defending it from the wrong one. He's saying how to bring about change. How you bring about change. And the other one is, in the concept of yajna, is how to stop bad examples to inspire the society with their version of change. Both are there, right? So there shouldn't be a vacuum. If you stop evil in its tracks, then you should be doing something to bring about change. And what is that? And this is the right way to set examples and to bring about transformations.
No force is by default and without any action. You don't have to do.
No, how is it?
No, means no force is by default. You don't have to do anything extra.
You don't have to preach.
No force is natural.
No, no.
Yeah, no force is natural, right? All transformation, human beings, the change happens like that. Kids learn from their parents. You don't preach all those stuff, and they learn, right? So that is whatever Gita is talking about is whatever is natural in the world, and they've put it in a much more. They've reflected on it and talks in much more detail. But all of these are natural way of bringing about change. Force is not it's an unnatural way of bringing about change, and it is not a stable way of bringing about change. It's within force is instability. There is always instability when there is a forced transformation, right? Forced change always leads to instability.
So you can say forced change can take you backwards, because then one day you have all filled up and you're just, I'm done with it. And you go even backwards.
Yeah, it can. That's what, right? You will put up even more barriers and start to defend your stuff, and then you can go even backward. Yeah, you can. So force is no change can happen with force. I shouldn't say change. No transformation can happen with force.
I think that's the key.
That is the key, right?
Transformation.
Transformation, right? When I say transformation, that means something that comes from within, right? Change means it can also be just superficial
Because, for
change.
example, there's a common statement called keeping up with the Joneses. Okay,
Yeah,
people
yeah.
change. Your neighbor buys a Lexus, so you go and buy a Lexus. Or kids change just to be part of the crowd. You see, but that's all superficial change. That's not internal transformation.
No. In some aspects, it's also transformation, right? Like if you look at society, if you have bad examples, you'll start getting generations of people who are superficial in that sense. They're completely transformed from within to be superficial, right? Right? So that means, that's why it is very important to set the right examples. If you let wrong, bad examples be set by people, then the society, so they are not preaching it. They are doing their own thing. Society is getting inspired, right? Krishna says, Yadyad acharati shreshtaha tadeva tattadeva itaro janaha. Whatever the greats do, all the others also get inspired by it and do it. So that the great can also, be in a villain also, right? He'll do the great things and set up bad examples, and it transforms in a wrong way.
But the issue there is if you get inspired by, say, Bill Gates, okay, let's say a boy, teenager gets inspired by Bill Gates. It's not like he wants to drive a Rolls Royce because Bill Gates is driving a Rolls Royce. Okay? He's going to be inspired to start working harder. He's going to be interested in, say, programming and try to learn as much as he can. That's the internal transformation.
Right.
The superficial changes will come later and automatically. But the transformation is the inspiration from Bill Gates and his hunger for learning new things, working hard, and therefore, and that's the change. So I think that's where the key is. The change. When we say change, we're talking about that internal transformation.
Yes.
There's a lot of superficial changes that we as human beings go through every day. I don't think we're really focusing on that yet.
No, there are two aspects here, right? What Krishna is saying is, whatever comes about through force, through preaching, right, and through coercing somebody, is always superficial change, right? It can be for good or for bad.
Yes.
Whatever comes about from setting example and inspiring is transformational change that can be for good or bad.
Yes.
Right? So a very bad, a person can set a very bad example, and that might inspire transformation in everybody, even without that person teaching, right? Like criminals who have done, all these daring things, which, you see a lot of, TV soaps and all of those about them and how they did it and how they achieved. That inspiration is what?
Negative.
It's also negative inspiration, right? It's bringing about negative transformation. So transformation can be positive or negative. But for something to be internal, it has to be without force. There is no other way to bring about internal transformation. But for the Vidwan, he has to take that into account and set the right example and also inspire the right kind of transformation. Right? So Vidwan is doing, a Jnani who is enlightened actor is doing the same things an unenlightened person is also doing, but he's doing in a right way and inspiring others, setting the right examples without being preachy. Right? That's why all of, my kids are not that older yet, but we all have that that experience that when you tell something, it will not happen most 99% of the time. Right? Right? Telling, it is preachy, is forcing. Right? It does not happen. Doing, makes it happen. Telling doesn't make it happen. That is what is, bringing about change from inside. So Krishna gave these two shlokas as a model for what do you need for a role model. What do you need to inspire change? Two things: relatability, just like an attached person does his activities, an unattached should also do. But his his detachment or detached attachment he should be doing the same things, be relatable, and then inspire change. And then do not force change in somebody who is doing something, because that forces them to put up barriers to change. To really bring about transformation, it needs to be sub-intentional. It should not be preachy. It should not be forceful. It should be by setting the right examples. Do that same thing, in an enlightened way, and set an example. They will transform.
So can you relate this to karma as well? If you set a bad example or do something bad, then you're doing bad karma.
Right.
That you'll have to pay, and anybody who's following you will also be doing the same. Can you say that?
Because it depends on what was your intention. Was your intention because intention, right? Karma is karma.
Yes.
If you intended to be a bad example, then it automatically attaches, and then there is paraspara and all of those things that come, generations of karmas and all that. But yes, but again, what you do is not only going to affect you, but also affects the society. So, it tells us the responsibility that we have, not just our doing, but our setting examples, and because everybody is watching everybody else, right? And we learn, we pick up from their actions, not much from their talk. And therefore it is very important to do the right thing. And so these are the two things about change.
There is a saying, Yatha Raja Tata Praja.
Yatha Raja, yeah, setting the example, right? Why Raja? Because he's Shrestha.
Yatha Praja, Yatha Raja. Nowadays, in
To actually elaborate on what he was saying there, or asking, you Kurukshetra.
Yeah.
You got the forces of light versus forces of darkness. You've got an army that's geared towards killing Arjuna, Krishna, all the Pandavas.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely forces of darkness. So you've got all these soldiers who are trying their best to kill Krishna. Okay. So the question is, from a karmic point of view, okay, definitely you would say that trying to kill Krishna is very negative karma. But as a soldier, and if they're following their dharma, which is to obey their commander and fight for their country or whatever it is, and in that you are trying to kill Krishna, how does that karma really manifest? Okay, it could be deemed to be even a positive karma in the sense that you're doing your duty.
See, that is a very superficial level of doing duty, right? See, follow your dharma what is dharma? Dharma is protection of the good. That is following dharma. It's not doing your duty as a warrior, in any war. That is not the warrior. The warrior is there to protect society from evil forces, right? If you are part of evil force, you cannot say, because I'm a warrior, that's my duty, and therefore I'm doing it. No, that's not. That doesn't become. It is adharma.
But for a soldier fighting on the Kaurava army, they may be fighting to defend their kingdom. and their families.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what they're thinking.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, if that is what they're fighting for, okay, then a soldier trying to kill Krishna or Arjuna, he may think he is doing the right thing
Yeah.
for as per his dharmic creed. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So again, he brought up a very interesting question. Means definitely historically, on hindsight, we know that you got one army that's totally on the dark side, aligned with the dark forces or dark nature. And but then if you look at it from a foot soldier's point of view, okay, how do you apply that karmic burden?
See, again, so the yajna part, right? There are some soldiers who would have participated because that's how they put food on the table. There are some who would have participated because they love killing people. There are some who participated because they want to win and be more powerful. And there are some who participated because they wanted to put a full stop to evil. Right? Or on the other side, maybe to defend their kingdom. Right? So so the karma that you accrue depend on what you're fighting for.
Exactly.
I mean, if you take the example of Bhishma, right? Bhishma didn't want to kill Krishna, but he had a vow to actually protect.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's the reason he did
But
it.
see, just taking that vow doesn't make it right.
No,
Right?
it isn't. Right. So why did he fight on the Kaurava's side then? You know,
Because that was the wrong thing to do. That's the hata, right? He has that hata, but Krishna tells him, that you should be defending the dharma, not be obsessed about, that you took a vow. No, that's not it. That's not the point, right? When it is a question of dharma, everything is trumped. Dharma is the most supreme, right? What you brought up brings up another question which I want to ask you now. See, we talk about dark forces and forces of light and all of those things, right? And also we are talking in terms of a war can be transformed into putting the food on the table, or killing and or power and or stopping evil in its tracks and all of those things. But don't you think that any war can be rationalized into this? Like for America, like for example, U.S. war on terror, right? Going and invading Iraq is what? Is defending our freedoms and all of those things. Is at what level? Is at the level of values, right? That's where your yajna, your sattva comes.
You can use the same dharma principle there.
Yeah, you can use anything, any war, and transform it into sattvic sounding. So how do you know that this is not it? Because when we talk about forces of darkness, forces of light, my question is, any war can be rationalized into, hey, we are the right,
Exactly.
they are the dark. Right?
History is written by the victors. I mean, that's another.
Yeah.
very
So then, how do you defend? How do you say Krishna is not inspiring jihad in Arjuna and a righteous war?
Krishna is God, we believe it.
No.
What I'm saying is that's the main concept.
No. Krishna says whatever in the end. He says whatever I've said, reflect on it and then decide. He doesn't. Never does he say, "Hey, I'm God and I'm telling you should follow." No. If that was the point, then there was no advantage or anything to read Gita. Gita is for us to know and reflect and decide. Right? It's not written in stone.
The concept of what is right and wrong is not. It's not like
It's
written in
relative.
stone. They
It's
say
all
this is
relative.
the right thing, this is the wrong thing. It's all made up by human beings.
No. That's where I'm coming to. That's what I'm coming
It's all
to.
relative. Everything is, and it changes with time.
No. It's relative in form, not in substance. Right?
So I think what you're trying to hint at is the sattvic principles are universal. The principles of righteousness
Sattvic principles are universal in substance, not in form.
in substance, correct?
Right? So what I mean by
principle.
in principle, what do I mean by that? So now anybody can rationalize any war and say we are fighting for our freedoms and they dislike our freedom, we love our freedom, we want humanity to follow us and all of those things, and this war is because of that, and everybody goes and fights a war. That does not transform this war into a dharma yuddha at all. It does not. What is the point of dharma? What is the basic point of dharma? He's saying right and wrong is relative. Good and bad is relative. It is not. Right? What is this most central goal of dharma? Hita. Right? There is a saying about speaking truth in the ancient literature. It says, Satyam na yathartha kathanam hitabhashanam. What it means is, saying satya, saying truth, is not saying things as is. Right? The truth is not in the form. It's not like, hey, if I say I have a glass of water, that's truth. If I say this is a glass of milk, that is lie. That is not what truth is. Truth is not saying things as they are. That is not truth. That's not satya in philosophical sense. In philosophical sense, it's completely different. It says the criteria for truth and lie or untrue is hita. What is hita? Welfare. Are you talking, words that causes welfare in others? Sometimes speaking as is causes welfare. Sometimes speaking a lie causes welfare. A lie is much more than a true if it is for the good or the welfare of somebody. Right? That is what satya is. That is what dharma is. Right?
The person who decides lie is good, it's again, he's making it up. He thinks that it's good, but it's really good.
No. Whether it is hita or ahita, right? It's a lie or this thing is what Vedanta says. Your intent, basically it is intention, right? Is if your intention, really in your heart, if your intention was, hey, I want them to be good, to benefit. Okay, so I will tell this lie because telling the truth would really hurt them and cause them no benefit. Right? So that is the difference between a whistleblower who's telling the truth because he ought to do it, because that's the right thing to do, or a person to whom a kid says, am I looking beautiful, and if it's not really beautiful, if you say, it's so ugly, it is yathartha kathanam, right? You are speaking as it is, you are speaking as you see, or it is ugly. But is that satya? It is not satya in its essence. Satya in its essence is hita. That means for the welfare of something. Right? The same with violence. Right? You have dandam dashagunam bhavet. That means you use the danda, the stick, to bring about good change in a person. Right? But you can also use the danda to kill the person. The intent, in one case, the intent was never to cause any welfare. You can say, I am doing it for welfare. So I am not talking about saying. What do you really intend? What do you really feel? If that is really for the welfare of the others, it becomes hita, and that is always dharma. Right? The one criteria for what is dharma and what is adharma is there going to be a hita or ahita from that action, or from that speech.
But the nature's dharma, the way the nature has evolved, is like a tiger killing some animal to eat that.
Yeah.
What is it, good or bad?
Not at the. That's no.
It's neither good or bad.
Yeah. At that level, it's neither good or bad.
So at the human level, survival of the fittest still applies. A person who is more powerful, more intelligent, will be on the top. Will be dominating others in a subtle way. The executives, the engineers, all these people going to be at the bottom, one at the top. So it's always the survival of the fittest which is going on.
No. See, in Bhartruhari says there is no difference between man and animal, right? The only difference is man follows dharma, animals do not. It says ahara, nidra, bhaya, maitunam. All these four is common between man and animal. That is ahara, food, nidra, sleep, bhaya, fear, maituna, sex. All these four is common between man and animal. You can choose to be at that level, or you can follow dharma, and then that dharma differentiates man from animal. Otherwise, it's the same. Because the same instincts, the same things, flow in us that flows in animal. It is the increase in the buddhi, right? The buddhi is more, and therefore the need for following dharma. And in the case of animals, they cannot follow the dharma because there is no buddhi, or the ahankara is not there to be able to follow the dharma.
I think one of the issues that feed into your question is that the value-based system that society follows keeps on changing and evolving, the values.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, for example, again, extreme cases of within our own society. I mean, there was a time in certain societies where sati was, nobody would have batted their eyelid
It's the right thing.
in
Yeah,
a
it's
case of
dharma.
sati.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Sati is a different thing. I mean, what's the time? I don't know. Now, see, sati, it started as something to defend the women in the kingdoms against being, taken away by the invaders, right? And so they chose to die rather than go be with the invaders, right? That inspired society to do things that was. You don't find sati in. Tell me, where is sati in any of the Veda, Upanishad, Purana? It's not there. I mean, sati is there.
No, that's my point.
Sati, as in Shiva's wife, is there. But Shiva's wife, what she did, is an example that they used. Is they said, hey, it's better to die
Correct.
than
Yeah, absolutely.
be captured.
No, but again, sati evolved socially and it was corrupted into the point where my point is that there was a time when people would not have batted their eyelid in the case of a sati example, okay? Or, for example, a dowry, okay? That used to be a part of the value. Nobody batted their eyelids. The hijab that people wear today in Orthodox Muslim countries, that's their values. Is it good or bad? From their point of view, that's the best thing for all women. But obviously, you come to the other side of the pond, that holds no value. So the value-based system keeps evolving. It changes from place to place, and I think that muddies the water on right and wrong.
No. It should. See,
But
in substance, it should be the same. In essence, it should be the same, right?
absolutely.
In form, it can change. In form, it changes within the country. In form, it changes. In time, in form, it changes. In different parts of the world. But in essence, if it is hita, that hita can exhibit different forms. That's not a problem at all, right? But if it is ahita, whatever form it comes in, it is always a dharma.
Now the Muslims and Christians, are they following dharma?
When they are doing things for the welfare, they are following dharma, right? You cannot say, are we always following dharma? No, just like that.
So I mean, it's not just dharma is not just limited to one religion. So
No, dharma I'm using as a universal example.
Gita is not only written for Hindus.
For mankind, right?
When
It's
it
for,
was written, there was only one religion. There was
no, there was no religion. Hey, come on, in third chapter we talked about tradition, religion. We're talking about religion again. Yeah, right. So it was written for mankind's welfare, right? So that is the criteria between dharma and adharma. Hita, satya, asatya, hita. All of those things are hita. Any questions on that? Any more? Why did we get into this? The thing. Like, so, any war can be, good and bad, right? Dark forces. See, if the intent was never to cause the welfare of the other guy, even if it is a righteous war, that is not dharma. It becomes adharma.
I think
Right?
we also discussed, Sunil, I think I brought this same conversation with you when we were going for walking.
Yeah.
I asked the same question. What happens to the army, who's a soldier fighting
Right.
for Gaurava?
Yeah.
And he's being forced by Duryodhana, has to do it. He has no option.
Right.
Then what is it? How could you differentiate that karma?
Yeah.
It's like,
Again, it all depends on the attitude and the intention in which they are fighting. If they are fighting because I'm being forced to fight, that's a different kind of karma.
If all the soldiers in the Kaurava start thinking in terms of dharma, they will be abandoning the armies and going away.
Exactly.
But they
Krishna picks up the same thing, right? No. That's the next sloka, and that's the and I wanted that point to come out from somebody, right?
At that point of time,
there will be no armies left.
Yeah.
You think are they own version of dharma?
Right.
Solve world peace. These are solved world peace,
now we
right?
understand what is right, but at that time, I guess either But they were ignorant.
No. Now we don't. Now there is more confusion than at that point of time, I would say.
Because we have a lot of information.
Yeah, a lot more information than essence, actually. No, that's a very good question that he brought up, right? Now Krishna is saying all this. Be a role model. It is your duty to be a role model and set a right example. And then, this is how you bring about change. Do not force. Be relatable, and all of those things, all well and good. But if it transformed everybody, wouldn't we have all of them good now? No, right?
Yeah.
No. See, the thing is, even when you are setting example, inspiring, a small minority of people will be completely transformed, inspired, and follow the path. The vast majority of people notice, maybe think about it for a few seconds, go on with their life. And another set of people would be actively trying to attack or destroy or set a counter example. So in society, at every point of time, all these three will always be there. Right? So, when Krishna is saying, you should inspire change, Krishna is also saying, be ready, not everybody will change. That is reality. Right? The reality is, you are bringing about change in a small set of people, and that's what is needed, because that small will grow. They set more examples. And there is some example, if somebody wants to follow the right path, there is something to follow. Right? So that is there. But never think that you will bring about world peace.
Everybody cannot be Sthita Prajna.
No. Even Sthita Prajna will not bring world peace.
Very important part. Pranjaya Vachana Jaya. That's what Bhishma followed. He promised that he is going to be on part of the Kaurava and he is going to protect them.
Yeah.
Even if he loses his
Life.
But even though he knew this is wrong, but he is forced to be on wrong side.
Yeah. Oh, you're just making a point. Is it related to this?
Means it comes to a point where all soldiers will be left actually, because they take a oath before joining the army. Doesn't matter where the decision is not in their hand, the judgment is not in their hand. Judgment is always to the management. But they are
No, but that doesn't make it right. You take an oath, right? If you take an oath, it doesn't mean that oath is more than dharma. Dharma is always at the top. So whatever you do should be according to dharma. If you put something above dharma, there you go. That is wrong.
I think an easy way to put this to bed once and for all is, in Nazi Germany, the death camps that they had, the orders from higher up came, to exterminate all the Jews. But it was down to the foot soldier to open the gas valves. Okay, the person who was doing that, he may have been a very low-ranking person, and he knew exactly what he was doing by opening those valves,
Right.
the gas.
And there were also people who did not do it.
Exactly. But if you had any sense of morality, you would have said that death is better than me causing all those innocent kids and women to basically die. So I think, that it comes down. That's an extreme. Again, that you rarely see that level of extremity.
Right.
In
that's another important. We should not think in terms of extremities, right? In extreme situations, all these things happen. But in normal society, these are not the things that we face. So it is better to think about those cases, those relatable cases, where how these things can happen, right? So the point of dharma is hita, right? And no amount of rationalization, no amount of doing anything would change the action if the intention was never for the welfare or benefit of the others. Right? It can never, whatever your speech, if you really speak the truth and your intention was to bring about hurt, so that at that point of time, if I speak the truth, all the people are there, he'll get the most disrespect and then probably go die. Right? And all of those things, and then you speak the truth and say, I spoke the truth. And that's dharma. That's not dharma. Right? So dharma is not in the form. Dharma is in the essence. Dharma is in the substance, not in the form. Right? And that's the whole point of saying sometimes or many times it is actually, war is dharmic than not going to war. Sometimes lie is dharmic than speaking the truth. In all of those things happen. But those lying and speaking the truth, those forms might change. But the substance, the intention of those forms was hita, welfare. If that is the same, that substance is the soul of the Vedanta, that should be the same.
So I just want to add one follow-up to that. So I think, from my understanding, this is the difference between like Bhagavad Gita ethics and ethics in other religions, right?
Okay.
Like if you look at Christianity, it's like 10 commandments, right? Thou shalt not kill, no matter what. But in Bhagavad Gita, we see...
Fantastic observation. Fantastic, yes.
But in this being, part of the West, you always get like the Christianized version of right and wrong.
Yes.
So after a while, our thinking becomes everything is right, this is wrong, very clear, that's it. But when you move back to Bhagavad Gita, you realize how that's like what you're trying to say. It's not relative, it's because then by relative you can say, well, anything's okay and
yes, exactly.
It's contextual.
Correct. Substance, the spirit is maintained, right? And different contexts might bring different ways of doing it, but all those different ways lead to the same essence, which is welfare, right? And you brought about a great point that 10 Commandments is all about form, right? Thou shalt not kill. But everybody is killing. What do you say about that?
Even though they have these 10 Commandments for religion, as a society, they have a criminal justice system that they follow, which means including killing criminals.
Yeah.
They fought wars, which were, Second World War, to fight against Nazi Germany, which is against so they have done stuff that was pretty much close to what.
No, I'm not saying that. But what, and it might not be related to religion, it might be pure politics, right? But what she brings about is very good, because the focus of Christianity or even Islam is in the form, doing it a certain way, right? Than being the essence about essence, right? Like thou shalt not, kill, and there are so many things, right? You should not worship any other form other than God, right? All of those things in the 10 Commandments. These are all forms. Thou shalt only worship Jesus Christ. Again, a particularity, not essence, right? In Hindu Dharma, in Vedanta Dharma, form can be different. It is the essence. We say different countries have their own great people. They should follow their own stuff. That is a very normal way of saying, right? As she said, it's all context dependent. The form is context dependent, but essence goes beyond context. And that is the whole thing about Deha and Atma, right? The whole first chapter was about form changes, but Atma does not. And this is all related to that.
And even if you put in a certain circumstance where you're surrounded by people, like take the example in Raman Vibhishan, he was totally in between all the Rakshasas. Yeah, his essence was correct. He stood by it and said,
yes,
no, this is wrong, and even left Ravan and joined.
Right.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And that also relates to what Krishna is saying now.
Even like the Guru Nanak and his sons,
Uh-huh.
they were forced to convert. They did not convert, and they actually died because of it. So I'm saying that.
Right. So what Krishna is saying next is very interesting, and it's already 11:50, so we have 10 more minutes. And it is this: you're setting an example, and you're doing all these great things. Good. But the next point, and this is how you need to create change. That's another good. But the thing is, again, one more important point: never be under the illusion that you can transform the whole world. That will never happen. The world will always be divided among 3 groups of people. sometimes they are the majority, sometimes in the minority, whatever it is. There will be one set of people who will be truly inspired and transformed by this example, and they follow the same. There will be a vast majority, according to time, of people who will take notice and then keep doing what they've always been doing. And then there will be another set of people who will try to actively oppose and bring you down and also set wrong examples. So all these three sets of people will always be there in society. So do not be under the illusion and be idealistic and say, hey, my goal is to transform each and every individual in this world and make them sattvic. That's never happening. And if you make that a goal, it becomes a failure from the beginning. It never happens. So, role model, how to bring about change, and realism that, hey, you bring about change, and that change only happens in a small set of people. And that's good enough, that you brought about this, and they multiply, and they multiply, and they multiply, and you have a whole line or generations of those examples that is repeated. That's what you should you should aim for. Not think, I will change the world. I mean, America has a lot of this thing about, hey, change the world, I'll change the world. Every school kid will change the world, right, Pavitra? Right? So, that is not how you bring about change. It is not realism. It is living in fantasy. And what is realism? Krishna says, Prakruter guna sammudaha. Prakrute kriyamanani gunaihi karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma karta aham iti manyate, he says. This will require a whole class. So next class I'll explain in more detail. But what he's saying is this. Krishna is saying, from Prakriti gunas, all actions happen. From Prakriti gunas, all actions happen. Ahankara vimuda, that means this an ignorant who is deluded by this what? Illusion of control. Ahankara vimuda, karta aham iti manyate, thinks he did it. Very simple, right? But this has a lot of things that, we have to look at this in the context of the Brahma Sutras and what Krishna is saying. Because here, Prakriti means three things. And I'll probably start it from now. So he says, Prakriti, what he's saying is, all actions happen because of Prakriti gunas. What are Prakriti gunas? What are Prakriti gunas? Three gunas. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, right? So he's saying Prakriti gunas are what? Gunas are Sattva. This is basically what I have here. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So, all actions happen because of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And therefore, he who thinks, I did it, is fooling himself. Very simple. Right? But what do you have to say? Do we act or does the gunas act? Who is the real actor? So you're saying, I didn't act. If I kill somebody, is it my fault or the guna's fault?
But the intention is that.
Yeah, so is intention caused by the guna or you?
Me.
Okay. So Krishna is saying every action is caused by the gunas. If I do something good, it is the sattva guna that is there in me.
The action is an expression of the gunas.
Action, yeah. Guna karma is always potential and what comes out. So, guna creates actions. Right?